Now the start of astronaut Gene Cernan's 2.5-hour walk in space. Reporting from the CBS News Space Center at the McDonnell Aircraft Plant in St. Louis, correspondent Walter Cronkite.
Good morning, and everything is going well for Eugene Cernan's walk in space. The longest man has yet attempted, only the third time a man has stepped out of a spacecraft into the void of space and floated independent of the machine that took him there. Eugene Cernan is scheduled to step out of that Gemini 9 spacecraft out over Hawaii in about 5 minutes from now. It has been a very restful night for the two astronauts. You remember it was the fact that they were fatigued after their very difficult rendezvous operation yesterday that postponed this walk for 24 hours. Well, they napped yesterday afternoon, deep slumber for 2 hours. Then they had 10 hours of a sleep period last night, during which they slept soundly for about 4 hours each and dozed another 6 hours. But they awoke very chipper this morning, a chipper hello down there when they awakened, and ever since then their voices have shown some of the excitement, perhaps restrained but excited, of this forthcoming space walk. This 32-year-old Navy lieutenant commander is all ready to go. The cabin has been depressurized as far as we know here now. That process began almost 25 minutes ago, and it means that now the prime astronaut, the commander of the spacecraft, Tom Stafford, and Eugene Cernan are depending on the pressure of their spacesuits to sustain them in space. The hatch will be opened in another 3.5 minutes, and Cernan will emerge from that hatch. He will not step out of the spacecraft for another several minutes after that. He will stand in the seat of the spacecraft and take in a micrometeorite collection box that is on the spacecraft, mounted right behind him. That box collecting and finding out about the various matter that is floating around in space. He will then adjust a camera and eventually step out of the spacecraft. CBS News color coverage. Gemini 9 mission will continue in a moment. Let's listen to a recording from the Pacific being played back from Houston. This is a very difficult translation to understand. They are reporting preparations to open the hatch.
Are you caught on something? That's right, I'm all right now. Man, a kid. Hallelujah. Boy, is that beautiful out there, Tom. I grab my Hasselblad, I take a picture of that. Okay. I can't turn around fast enough. Okay. Okay? Let me see how these hatch forces are. Okay. Well, trying to grab a hold, we'll be all right, I guess. On the back of the boat. Now I'm not going to try and install it. Oh, the handrail in the back is out. No bad, but I may be able to get this one. Oh, I got that one. She's out. Good pressure. Can't see it. It's too dark out. Okay, my lights are down now, Tom. Okay.
The times you see being supered there on your screen are times to the opening of the hatch.
I checked the gate limit. Okay, I'll check again, but I already put them there, Tom. Okay. Stand by, wait a minute, let me check these. There it goes. Now, I want to float out. I'll just overboard, okay, the next. It's a little bit dark yet, Tom. Let me see. Yeah, I just brought up. I got a hold at about 3.9 right now. Okay, I'm up. And I'm in medium flow and very comfortable. Real good. Make sure you got. Okay, I'm turning around and trying to get S12 now, Tom. Okay.
S12 is the recovery of the micrometeorite box. That's the little box right behind Cernan's head as he stands in the hatch, which he's doing now. He's standing in the hatch. He's turning around and trying to...
That way. Yeah, okay. If I get on the instrument panel, I keep them coming out.
This is our simulation here in McDonald. What's going on right now?
Everything else pretty nominal right now.
This is a small box, which is to measure the impact of the micrometeorites. Little specks, hardly larger than pebbles of sand, smaller than pebbles of sand. Scientists interested in just how hard they do impact a body, and this box has been...
Okay, the S12 lanyard's on. Here comes S12, Tom. Okay. Oh, I still got it. I got it. Okay, I'm leaving go.
What you're hearing is a conversation between Cernan and Stafford. He's handing down this micrometeorite box.
Yeah, join the club. Yeah. For the handrail. Handrail is deployed. Okay, come on there, you turn.
Deployment of the handrail, a handrail which comes out, extends from the spacecraft that he can hold on to as he maneuvers around the spacecraft.
Okay.
This is from Mission Control Houston of Cernan's heartbeat, the determining factor as to how much of this workload he can carry in space.
It's a long way back to that handrail. Yep.
Says a long way to that handrail. Now he's attaching the camera, which will face forward, as you see there. That head you see in the screen there is that of Flight Surgeon Charles Berry.
Yep, you better hold it, Colonel. Leave you.
The man you see in that spacesuit is Miles McClure, Donald engineer.
There to get empty things to the handrail so far back. I think... Pull me back down. I'll pull you down. Okay. Pull me down some more. Okay. Okay.
That broken transmission sounds as if Cernan has stepped out of the spacecraft.
Okay, Tom, put me back. I don't see anything waving off the adapters from here.
Telling Stafford to hold me down, which I assume would be holding the umbilical down and keeping
I have to play around a little bit. Okay, let me try these double. Okay. At the camera, now let me check the settings again, Tom. 6 frames per second, 200, and F16, huh? Strange world out here, you know? Yeah.
You're listening to the conversation between Cernan, floating in space now outside of his capsule. That's nearly as we can get in our indication, and with our simulation here, of course, he's talking back to Stafford, and that radio command link. Actually, Actually,
I had it in, but it wouldn't snap down. Okay.
Actually, it's a link along that tether line you see there, 25 feet of umbilical cord. That contains the life support system and communications link from the spacecraft life support system out through that chest pack.
Yeah, Tom. Yeah. Copy that. Okay. Hold on a second.
Well, we haven't been able to clearly determine it from the rather garbled conversation we're hearing. We're listening in on between Cernan and Stafford. At this point, he should be attaching that tether out there so it won't float too far free and it won't tangle.
That's it, but it's in. Okay, Tom, let me turn around before I pull that leg down. I'm all right.
Gene Cernan going about his duties in a very businesslike way, it sounded to us here on the ground. The communication a little choppy to start with. They improved as we moved through the center of the Hawaii circle. And we lost acquisition about a minute ago. We should pick them up again in about 2 minutes via California. At 49 hours and 26 minutes elapsed time, Gene did retrieve the S-12 micrometeorite impact emulsion dish. He also deployed the handrails about 2 minutes later. And he noted it was quite a distance back to the handrail. He seemed to have a little trouble setting up his EVA 16mm camera. And now we have reacquired via California. Let's go back to the spacecraft.
Okay, let me take a breather here, Tom. Okay.
We should have steady transmission and good transmission.
The ELSS wants to ride up in my face. Everything I leave goes up. Houston standing by. Okay.
We should have pretty good transmission now for the next 20 minutes until they lose the signal again over Antigua. The pass over Southern California and down around the Texas border in Mexico, out over the Gulf, but in communication with the Texas stations, then in the Kennedy station, Bermuda, and Antigua before we finally lose this signal again on the spacewalk.
Hey, Dick, if you're listening, and I know you are, boy, you got a beauty coming. We're in you loud and fairly clear, Tom. Roger, you're clipping a little bit, Tom, but we're getting most of it. Very good.
Cernan at this point should be attaching that mirror.
Okay.
That mirror so that Stafford can see Cernan and go to the back of the spacecraft.
Yeah, that's right, Tom.
You're hearing mission control in Houston speaking directly.
Real good in the ELSS. The temperatures are good, food pressures are holding real good. Houston, roger.
Mission control talking to command pilot Tom Stafford, who says that Cernan's chest pack's working well.
About 2 more minutes, Tom. Okay, you want to pass your note around and then what our next step is?
25-foot umbilical cord, which he is maneuvering.